Hello, everybody. It's good evening here, but it's good late afternoon where my guest is. This is the COVID Conversations. My name's Kyl Reber. This is a chance for me to have a chat to some people that I've come to know very well over recent years or many years. It's a chance just to have a chat about where they sit in the world, wherever they are in the world, how things are going for them, what they do, learn something about them that we may not already have known. And if nothing else, just a good little old catch up by way of modern technology. My guest today is somebody that over the last probably 4 years, I'll be honest, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, sorry, I had no idea who she even was. Now I would say she is probably one of the coolest humans that I know, and at the same time, probably one of the humblest humans that I know. She is probably at her age old for what she is doing, but she is doing it very well. She is living and training in Pattaya in Thailand, formerly of Colorado, of all places. She has just had, well, prior to all the stuff going on, she has had her 264th Thai fight, when she had a little goal of 50, and it kind of escalated pretty quickly. But Sylvie von Duuglas-Ittu, hello and welcome. How are you?
I am good. Thank you for such a wonderful introduction.
No, how good was that? Is this the longest you've ever been stitches free? Are you going to get, like, the next time you get punched in the face, are you going to go, ow? Really?
I actually a couple of years ago got dengue fever, and so I had to cancel some fights, but I passed out in the hospital and ended up getting stitches in my chin to make up for the fact that I wasn't getting stitches in fights. So yeah, this might be the longest in a while.
You just felt left out. It just
Totally.
didn't feel the same.
I will find a way.
Yeah, just headbutt a door or something. So we'll talk more about your situation and what's going on. But it is a pleasure to talk to you. So tell me, as I said to you prior, I'm going to try and limit my my Aussie bogan too much. The barbecue intro. I've got water. I'll be honest with you, I was having a couple of beers and I stopped and I went, I need to have water just so I get the best conversation out of Sylvie. But g'day, my name's Kyl. What's your name? And tell us a little bit about you. What do you do?
My name's Sylvie, and I am a professional Muay Thai fighter in Thailand for the past 8 years, and in the process of letting Muay Thai take over my entire life and become the thing that I love so much and is destroying me, I've also created many projects through the help and support of patrons to preserve the legacy of Muay Thai. So I'm also working on lots of documentary projects to preserve the Muay Thai that's changing very quickly in Thailand. So I'm not only an active, full-time, very busy fighter, but I'm also a documentarian, basically, of Muay Thai.
How many hours of footage do you reckon you and your husband Kevin have filmed and published in the last 8 years?
The library itself is coming up on 100 hours, which we're really excited for. That was a goal. But in terms of like my fights and actual interviews and documentaries and training, it would be a lot. It would be a lot of hours. I'm not good at math. It'd be a lot.
It'd have to be like 1,000 odd hours, wouldn't it? Really?
It would. Yeah. If you, I think Kevin, many fights ago, so maybe like 20, 30 fights ago, had calculated that I've fought 1,000 rounds and I've been put down once.
Look, I'm going to ask the question, and I'm sure that, like, it's that thing like working, like when I used to work with, musicians and that sort of thing, you do the whole, I love all your music, how do you get started and that sort of thing. But seriously, how do you fucking end up where you are? Like, how does this start? Like, you grew up in, like you said earlier, you grew up in Colorado, which isn't a very industrialized state of the United States. I think Colorado, I think mountains and snow. How did you end up here? Like, were you were you a sporty kid? Did you just stumble across Muay Thai? How does it happen?
I was a sporty kid. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and I'm the only girl. So I was like trying to keep up with my brothers and trying to fit in and be cool. And I never passed. Like I was never, never one of the gang, which has prepared me for being so much an outsider in Thailand as a woman, as a foreigner, at the age that I am trying to do what I'm doing. So it was my like prophecy growing up like that. But I had never done any kind of contact sports as a kid. I never did like karate, which was, I guess, like mall karate was really big from my era growing up, but I was never into it. I didn't actually ever see Muay Thai until I was like 24 years old. I had watched Bloodsport and Kickboxer and stuff growing up, but that's not Muay Thai. Not Muay Thai.
No.
So it's so weird because my origin story in terms of Muay Thai is literally that beautiful, like one tiny seed becomes the entire orchard. And it just snowballed. Like it's like, this is interesting. This person, Master K, my first teacher, was so influential, was so amazing. It's like, let's do more of this. And, 10 years down the line, it's still, let's just do more of this. So there's no way that from the first day I could have ever projected that I would be where I am now. Nobody could.
I mean, talking to people through these interviews, it's funny, the people who, dare I say it, the people who have the best story are the people who didn't really have a plan as such. Like, because Master K, I was looking a little bit at some of your older stuff, because you've been putting up a few older clips of late on your Facebook page and that sort of stuff. Were you training with him like literally in his garage or stuff like that? Like, how does that happen?
It's his basement. People who've been following me for that long, I have people who have followed me from that long ago.
Yeah.
And they call them the basement tapes, which I love. Those
Sounds
are the
like a Beatles album.
Totally. But he's, at the time I met him, he was about to turn 70 years old, and he was a former fighter.
He's a unit. He moved so well for that age.
He's incredible. He's in his 80s now, and he still is just amazing. He puts up videos of hitting stuff in his backyard between videos of like feeding squirrels and making bird feeders and stuff. But he's like, I'm so grateful to have had him as an early mentor, because it's not only about, I actually don't really have any of the technique or finesse that Master K was trying to impart on me. I am not like Master K in my Muay Thai at all, but my heart, like, for a man to be in his 80s training himself in his basement because he just loves Muay Thai, he gave that to me. Like, I have that for sure from Master K.
So when you said about just probably to the uneducated, mall karate, you would mean all the American shopping center full-time centers and all that sort of thing. How do you meet Master K? How does that happen? Is this like the Mr. Miyagi shit? He like trimmed your bonsai tree or something like that? Or?
Yeah, I was trying to steal a sword out of his.
Fixed your bike?
It was very hard to find Muay Thai. Kevin and I were living in New York, and we lived up in an area that's very rural. It's by West Point Military Academy. It's just a bunch of military land. There's nothing up there. Yeah. So we actually had to travel an hour to see Master K in each direction to train with him. He was in New Jersey. But we initially just had to find a Muay Thai gym. And I guess maybe we weren't good at Googling, or like, Muay Thai was not very searchable at the time, but we found a gym down in New Jersey that we went to see, and it was shit. It was like a mall gym that was basically Taekwondo, but they would also teach elbows, so they called it Muay Thai. But it happened to be that, sorry?
So I was just going to say, do you think, the Americans caught on to Muay Thai a bit late? Because Muay Thai's been in Australia, we probably, I would say probably early 90s, we started really getting heavily, like Chief's been going to Thailand to train since 87. Do you think Americans caught on to Muay Thai a little bit later than maybe other countries?
I think we're still late. I think that we're still, most Muay Thai gyms in America are MMA gyms that offer Muay Thai. I think that there's a much stronger push now for authenticity than there was when I first started, which may not actually be the greatest thing, but there are more people now actually coming to Thailand and then, you know, bringing what they've learned back home. You guys are much closer to Thailand in Australia, so your influence and ability to actually get kind of direct lines to that is definitely much older. I think America is a little bit behind the ball because karate and taekwondo and things like that were already kind of in place in the 90s.
And they took a stranglehold, like, I mean, right back to the Karate Kid. And you guys have been running Americans have been running full-time centers since, God, the 60s. I mean, Bruce Lee ran a full-time center. It's been going for that long. So when does the decision come, we'll move to Thailand and we'll give this a crack? Like, was it a bet? Was it something that I mean, like you said, and I don't mean to downplay it, because I think what you've done and what you're doing is amazing. But there would be a series of people that you would have spoken to maybe about, I want to do this, and would they have tried to talk you out of it? Like, you know, are you sure you want to do that? Because you worked in a bar, you led a pretty normal existence. How does that happen?
My moving in with Kevin, marrying Kevin, starting Muay Thai, and starting bartending kind of all happened at the same time. So it worked out well, because being a bartender allows you weird hours that let you train in a way that like a 9-to-5 doesn't. So I was able to have Muay Thai and my job together pretty much from the beginning, which was really good. The decision to actually come to Thailand actually came because Master K had to have heart surgery. He had angioplasty, and just this like realization, like having his, you know, mortality in our face was like, I owe it to him to go to Thailand and like see Muay Thai and kind of learn the basics. Master K has this incredible way of teaching that's very like PhD level. I couldn't formulate a sentence, and he was like teaching me Ovid, you know. It's like way beyond what I could understand. So coming to Thailand was really trying to get like a foundation underneath what Master K had been teaching me. And I would say it was within 24 hours of arriving in Thailand, Kevin and I were like, we have to come back. Like we have to come here for longer. So the
first trip to Thailand. So you went to Thailand once, came back, and then came back again for good. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I fought one time in America. I had my first fight in America about a year after starting Muay Thai. And then shortly, like a little while after that, maybe the winter after that, we came to Thailand for, I think it was 10 weeks, which was actually longer than we had planned and longer than we could afford. And then we went home and saved for 2 years. And after those 2 years, we moved to Thailand, and we've been here since that.
Yeah. And the original goal, like you've said in the past, the original goal was 50. 55.
Which was crazy at the time. That was insane at the time.
Oh, look, there's people in Australia to have had, you know, 50 fights in Australia that would take years to accumulate. But you've had situations where you do up to 3 a week?
I think the most I've ever had is like 4 in 7 days or something like that.
And then you break 50. So I assume at that rate, 50 would have come reasonably quickly?
If you average it all out, I think that I've fought every 11 days or so for the past 8 years. It's slowing down now, so my averages are changing, but I was fighting, my first couple of years were like 36 fights a year. Then it kind of dipped down to 29 fights a year, that kind of thing.
And that's what I mean. You say that back to yourself, and you go, Jesus Christ. So the fighting was the first priority, and then did the whole chronicling and the library, was that something you went, we'll just start doing this, and that escalated as well?
Yeah, it's this thing that I was saying, the snowballing of like, you kind of try something new, or you get an idea, and then you're like, wow, that's incredible, and you just do more of it. So the first couple of years was just fighting. We didn't do any kind of training with legends or documentation like that. We were documenting me, and we were documenting my process. and stuff like that to try to get people. I've written a blog about this. When I was like 14 years old, I had this job working for the county where we were building prairie dog fences.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically like a fence that's like a foot high, because if a prairie dog can see, it'll go. But if you block its view, it won't go into the other field. So I likened it to these prairie dog fences, which is like me documenting myself in Thailand. People can see what Thailand's like, and they can see themselves there, and then they'll come. Like, there were no women here when I first came, and now I see women here much more often. Women are coming and fighting, whereas before they were like not sure if they wanted to fight. Men too, they're like, I'm going to go to Thailand and have 3 fights instead of I'm going to go and have 1 at the end of my 2 months. People see it, and it changes the way they think, and I'm really proud of that. But it actually was about 2.5 years into being in Thailand that we moved down to Pattaya. We changed gyms and came down to Petchnarung in Pattaya. And weirdly enough, it was because we got a dog. We took JD off of the street that I had to travel for fights because Pattaya doesn't really have a lot of female fighting opportunities. We had to rent a car because we had a dog now. So renting the car made it possible for us to, on our travels, go visit legends and train with them and start documenting them. And it was this thing that was like, we'll do this one time, and then it's like, no, that's fucking awesome, let's do that a bunch of times. It's just like, it's become an entire project.
And then 50 becomes 100, 100 becomes 150, 150 becomes 200. Every like milestone that you reach. I've said this to you before, and I'll let you answer it. Is there an end to this, or are we just seeing where this goes? Because I mean, one thing
everybody dies, Kyle.
Well, they do. Not after they get, like, I mean, you and Wayne Parr, I think you actually beat Wayne Parr on the stitches count, or you were comparing stitches in one of your, you know, and we think that guy's
still ahead of me on that.
You've seen his face up close. Wayne, if you're listening, it's okay. We think you're a legend over here. He'll beat me up. It's something that you sort of go like, 264, so we hit 300. Like you said, everyone dies. But when do you think you have this little that's enough point, or are you just letting it roll and just seeing where things flow?
I don't think that you can plan for like an end kind of thing. I think that you can prepare for things changing, as I'm preparing for this year to potentially not have fights for a year. But I get this very weird thing. I don't know why people think this way, and I can't really blame them. It's just such a weird mentality. But people will see my fight number, or they'll be watching my fights, and they're like, "This is so inspiring. When are you going to stop?" And I'm like, "Oh, what a weird question. Like, what you're doing is so cool. When will it stop?" But right now, something that we're aiming towards is there's this fighter named Len Wickwar. He's a British boxer, and he fought in like the 40s. And he has all of his fights on record. They're not recorded because 40s, but there's a record of all of his fights. And he had 470 is the number that was written on Boxing Rec. And it's actually just been kind of updated. So he potentially has like 472. So now I have to do 473. Whereas before it was 471.
Be one better.
I have to honor his record by beating it, and I'll aim for one above. But you know, I might go past that if it's possible. But I think that another 10 years of fighting, if I can keep my rate going, and this year is going to be really quiet, so it might be 11 years of fighting. I think that I can reach that.
It's funny, like I have a saying I use with my guys, just, you know, just one more round.
Right.
And there's just one more fight. But I mean, obviously, like, having done that process 264 times, like I remember talking to Tom once about his fights, and he said his body is just such in tune. He just knows exactly what he has to do, exactly what not to do. I mean, you not to say, I'm sure you still get nervous fighting, but you just know the process now, what you need to do. This is what I do here. This is what I do here. How's your body holding up?
I've been really, really lucky. I haven't had really significant injuries in any way. I'm still one of the people at the gym that my trainers will point at to the teenage boys and be like Sylvie. Sylvie can do the push-ups. You do the push-ups. It's kind of incredible. So I don't feel like anyone, stays the same all the way through their career. And so you just kind of anticipate that and make the changes that you can make to keep going. But I honestly feel like I fight better when I fight frequently. When I have like a big gap between fights, I feel like there are, I can feel the difference in fighting regularly versus fighting with big gaps between. And I definitely prefer fighting more regularly.
Because to fight the frequency you fight, well, in the States or even in Australia, like you see guys in the UFC, they fight, they can go 1 or 2 years not having a fight. For you to do that so frequently, like you said, it would just become, like I said, it's better for you than to leave it for longer because you're just such in this rhythm, aren't you? Like your body just isn't.
Yeah. These fighters who fight really infrequently, they have this huge like build up and then plummet and then recovery, and they have their like party phase because they've been, working so hard, and so now they get to celebrate afterwards and just trash their bodies with their celebration and then recover from that, which is, in addition to recovering from the fight and things like this. It's kind of that like stay ready so you don't have to get ready type of situation.
Well, that's arguably worse for their bodies, isn't it? That big up and down and up.
I totally think it is. It's for me, if I actually have to take time off because of an injury or because, whatever causes me to have, which for me, taking time off is like 10 days is the longest I've done other than with shutdown. You can feel how hard it is to come back to where you were. Like getting back on the horse is actually really difficult.
Because I've read about one of your favorite blogs that I've read is the one about the no rest days. Like you train every day regardless. And I think it's something to go on. Like you said, you don't always have to train the hardest every day, but you're still doing something every day.
Yeah.
Do you think that is something that maybe us Western folk, because I think you're an honorary Thai by now, us Western folk, we just maybe jump to the easy conclusion too much? Like you will always train every day, regardless of what you can or can't do, you'll find something to do. Do you think that's something that maybe we should look at a bit more? And, if you can't run, if your legs are sore, do push-ups. If your arms are sore, do squats, something like that. Is it something that you see a lot in Thailand? They are always finding something to do.
Thais definitely do have a strong belief in rest. They rest after their fights. They'll take a week off after their fights. On a fight day, they're like very just like lay around, eat well kind of thing. So I wouldn't say that even my mentality is matched fully with Thais, but like at our gym, if the boys can't train or if they're sick or whatever, they still run. Like you still have to run. You can't clinch with everyone. You can't be in contact with people. You can't spar, whatever the thing is, but you still have to run because it's this like background, just keep the fire stoked kind of thing. And I think that for me, in terms of like, having active recovery or active rest or making sure that you do something every day, for me, it's mental. Like it's a mentality thing. I really think it's difficult for me. And when I see other people who come from the West and try to like fit into a training twice a day, everyday situation, is that if you have this like, okay, I worked hard, so now my reward is to do nothing. People don't actually feel very good doing nothing. So it's like your rewards suck.
It's funny you should say that, like, especially when we are over there, you'll do the 2 sessions a day and like it takes a couple of days to sink into that groove. And then when you sink in, and then when Sunday and the gyms aren't open, it's a weird feeling. Like you almost,
you're like antsy.
It's like, you feel worse not training than you do training. So I always say to the guys, if you want to have an afternoon off or something, maybe consider just going. And when you get there and start, you feel okay. I really love the philosophy of it. The last thing I want to talk about before we move into the next question, like you touched on earlier, that you are, I don't know whether you call, because I know you're a very humble person, but you're a reluctant hero to women, not just probably in Muay Thai, but maybe just women all over the world. I mean, I know I've got a 12-year-old who just thinks that the stuff you're doing is amazing / crazy / inspiring. That was never in the plan, but now it's there. How does that make you feel sometimes? Is it cool to just have that feeling that you're motivating people? Or do you struggle with that feeling?
I don't struggle with motivating people because the things they're motivated by are things I value. So I'm like, I agree with that. That's awesome that you're also into that. I get stunned a lot still by some comments from people. Like I'll be getting a comment on a Instagram post or like a YouTube video where people are like, Diesel Noi, Lana Moon, and Sylvie are my favorite fighters. And I'm like, how the hell is my name going in that little trilogy? Like, this is insane. It's just like things like that. I don't know if you ever get used to, but it's very rewarding for me that because the things that are important to me are the things that I put out there. Like, I truly, truly value all of the content that we're making because I love these legends. I love the history. I love fighting. I believe all the things I say about women, coming and fighting. I want women to be fighting at Lumpini and Rajadamnern, and all of those things are real values for me. So when other people are like, I'm inspired by that, I'm like, yes, like you're inspired by the same thing that inspires me, rather than it being like I did something.
You've become almost a point of contact for women coming over to Thailand to fight. Like people develop relationships with you, and like I said, people come over, and as I've said, like when we come over, we need to make sure we train with Sylvie. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see now, like you said, and I'm sure that definitely was not in the plan.
No.
No.
It's so bizarre. I tell my mom all the time that it's so weird that my job is basically talking and like presenting myself publicly a lot because I am so shy. My mom was getting called for years when I was in school, like, Sylvie's under the table and won't come out. What do we do? And my mom's like, if you figure it out, let me know. Like, I don't know. She does it at home.
And here we are.
Totally. Like, I truly love it. When you guys came and we did the clinch seminar, I was way into it. I love that everyone in your group was so engaged. Everyone was really like interested in learning these things. I'm interested in these things. So it's like we're having a jam session on things that we all think are great. When that's over and it ends, it's like I like blacked out and I like come back to my body and I'm like, I need to sit down and like not talk for 25 minutes or something. It's definitely weird, but
I mean, you're so passionate about it, and it's funny. And I say, people who know me well enough know I only give credit where credit's due. There was one statement, and I wasn't the only one who picked up on it, because we had eight of our crew did that seminar, and there was at least 3 that came back to me afterwards, and they said, it was so funny the way Sylvie said to us, I'm not a crew, but I'll teach as best as I can because I'm not very good at teaching. And an hour, whatever it was, just went like that. And I said to the boys, I said, she hasn't even scratched the surface of what you really want to do. It's funny, like, to see how much time you are spending, but you still don't consider yourself a teacher. It's always very interesting to see that you still have that amount of, I guess, humility, that you still recognize there's so much to learn.
Yeah, I think it's like how, I don't know, like men have this more because women, we change our names and things, but like if someone calls you, Mr. Reber, and you're like, that's my father.
Yeah.
Like, at what point do you become the like authority kind of thing? And I think that because I still am like, we just published this thing that was Diesel Noi and Wichanoi having a conversation, and Diesel Noi is my hero, and then Wichanoi is his hero, and to see my hero treat his hero the way I look at Dieselnoid is like, you know, like, oh my God, you know, everything. I can't get used to the idea that like I'm that for somebody.
Yeah.
No. Like ask Dieselnoid, he's the one who taught me, you know, like this isn't my idea. I took this from Dieselnoid. So.
But again, I guess that's an example of just not only humility, but you just still have that passion that you're still just wanting to get better and better. And this stuff that happens as a byproduct is just really cool. All right, the next question. I think I basically know this one, but I'm going to ask anyway. What's something you're passionate about? Strange. It's weird, isn't it? Don't tell me. No. Go.
I think I'm into Muay Thai.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't sure when I saw this on your list if this is like, because you gave an example of like something that people wouldn't expect. And I don't know that I have anything that people wouldn't expect that I'm really into, because the cool thing about how Kevin and I have just thrown ourselves into Muay Thai and let it swallow our lives is that it can be part of everything. Like it's not compartmentalized. So if there's something I'm really into, you know, if I really like writing, I'm blogging. You know, if I am really into, I guess I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, and that doesn't connect to Muay Thai. Other than that, I listen while I'm running.
God. I know, that's you spending the whole run looking over your shoulder. Like you can fight. I guess you said something there that made me think. So you blog a lot now. So you've got your 8 Limbs website. You blog on there. Were you what you have considered to be a writer? Did the writing start from this? Have you always, you know, in high school, were you writing, or was this something that just kind of happened?
Yeah, I think this is actually one of those things that actually ties perfectly into how you're saying it's funny that I don't call myself a crew, but I teach people, is that I never wanted to call myself a writer, even though I clearly write all the time.
You write well. You write well.
Thank you. But it was like, I don't know, it's like wearing the identity of something kind of puts it in this other feeling. But I think that actually my blog came very early. Like it came right when I was starting with Master K, because it was a way for me to process what I was experiencing. And so for me, writing is kind of cathartic, or a way to like sit down and patiently work through things that I'm experiencing or feeling that maybe are a little bit intense, to just, you know, have by itself. So I definitely am a writer. I think that I can wear that identity now. But it's not something that I'm like, I have to sit down and like get better at writing. I think it's a thing that in the same way that I've noticed that my Muay Thai and my Thai language totally get better together, like simultaneously. I'll have breakthroughs like at the same time in my language and in Muay Thai, and I think that they go together. So I think that my concept of language, even my own language in English, and the way that I work through things verbally, and then the way things have to be physical in the way that you're training, I think that I process those together.
Has the when you just said about the Muay Thai language, has, like, I'm obviously, like, you've got you've lived in Thailand for 8 years. You can't live, like, and I know the more I go back, the more I not just love Muay Thai, but I love the whole Thai culture, the culture surrounding Muay Thai. Is that something, because obviously, like, you've got like the Sakyant and all that sort of thing. Is that something that it just kind of goes, you can't go, like, it goes hand in hand? Like, you know, you speak Thai. Is that something that you've also, I guess, embraced? It's the culture, it's the meaning, it's, you know, for example, like the first, like last time I was over there this year, we did you know, I was doing way crews for the first time, and that just sort of really like went, this has now gone to another level. Does that make you just, I guess, you know, I'm trying to figure out the word to say, but it's a holistic approach now. It's not just the fighting, it's the culture, it's the everything.
Yeah, I think that part of it is the concerted effort that it was important to me to learn the language, and it was important to me to learn how to read and write as well. And I try to be polite, like I want to be polite. So you have to learn about the culture. Sometimes you're accidentally really rude because in your culture that's nothing, and here it's not. It doesn't fly. So I think that part of it is a concerted effort to kind of paint within the lines of the kind of person I want to be in this culture, while simultaneously really pushing on a lot of those lines simply for being who I am. Like, this is not a feminist world that I live in. But it's also, part of it is just immersion, you know, like if you're constantly getting in the cold pool and out of the cold pool and in and out, it stays cold for a really long time. But I'm like in the pool for 8 years. So naturally you're going to speak Thai more. You're going to pick up more of the cultural things. You're going to kind of like start to see things the way that the people that you spend the most time with see it. So part of it isn't intentional, and part of it is just the immersion of living in this culture for so long.
Did you learn the language just as you went, or did you actually study? Did you go and study speaking Thai?
I started learning it between when we first came and when we moved here. I had a tutor that I would meet on Skype. So I had like a very, very basic understanding. And then I also started learning with a teacher when I first got here. But because I was in Chiang Mai, there's a lot of English, and I was at a gym that was very familiar with Westerners. So all the trainers spoke English, and I really wasn't forced to speak Thai. Right. And because I'm so shy, I didn't want to make a mistake. So Kevin would be, you know, trying to get me to order something in Thai, and I would just like not even be able to do that. But when we moved to Pattaya, there's way less English. And I was actually forced to use my Thai more, not only because in my gym I needed to speak Thai, but also I was booking my own fights at that point. That's when it started. So I had to be texting, writing, and reading with promoters to be able to do that. And I still want to get much better. Like when I'm doing these interviews with, you know, Diesel Noi or Nam Kabuin or someone, I wish that my Thai was better.
I would imagine their English is very limited, so it'll be very pretty much full time, or non-existent.
Yeah. It'll be a couple of words that they think are really funny that they'll stick
to. It gets old very quickly.
Yeah.
So again, it's funny. I'm looking at these questions, going, these are no-brainer questions for you, but I'm going to ask them anyway. What's on your bucket list?
I didn't even know what a bucket list was until like 2 years ago. I don't know if I would categorize this as a bucket list thing, but something that's really important that is like, if I died having accomplished this would really be something. I want to be one of the first women to fight at Lumpini. Women are not allowed to fight there. I want to fight there, but it's really important that if I fight there, other women continue to fight there. I do not want it to be a like one time and then it's done. I want it to be that the door is, you know, sticking my foot in the door and others can come in, like hold the door open for others.
So I guess the question, and this is like, it's funny, like this is a question that I've asked everyone on these interview series so far, and everyone has had a different interpretation of it. I've had some people say, I don't have a bucket list. Some people go, I've done already everything that's on my bucket list. So you have something that's there, and I guess it is definitely a bucket list worthy achievement, because like you said, it hasn't been done before. So the question I'm asking, do you think that will happen, and how does Sylvie do that? How will it happen? What needs to be done to make it happen?
This is the really difficult thing about it, is that it is not a
cultural thing, I guess, isn't it?
It's a huge thing. The thing that's so frustrating about it is that it's a huge change that actually will come about instantaneously. It will just be one person being like, and we're going to book that fight, and it'll happen. So it's this kind of like landmark shift that actually could just be like a light switch going on.
Hmm.
And when those things go together, it gives you a lot of hope because you just have to get the right person to be like, that's a good idea. But nobody wants to be the first. So it's like, it's very, I don't know if it'll happen in my lifetime. I think it will happen at some point. I would love to be the person to usher that in with my opponent. So I will also say that it's women fighting at Lumpini, not me. But it's something that when I first got here and would mention it, there was a like immediate, there's no way, never. Dieselnoy has mentioned it. Like Dieselnoy talks about it now. That's insane. Like that people think about it now.
I immediately think of the initial conversation Dana White had with the press when they were talking about a girl called Ronda Rousey, who they went, oh, she'd be good to have fight as a female in the UFC. And he went, no female will ever fight in the UFC. And then 12 months later, there we are.
And he's like, oh, wait, who's my biggest star ever?
Yeah. Who made my biggest paycheck? and again, that's what I think of, because you would have already seen in the 8 years, there's been a progression of women fighting in Thailand, even since you've been there in 8 years, I'm sure. Like, what stadiums are women able to fight in Raja?
Nope. Women are only allowed to fight at Rangsit, which is kind of north of Bangkok, and they don't really have a lot of fight cards there. We can obviously fight in, like festival fights, and in Chiang Mai, all of those stadia allow women. Yeah. But for the national stadia of Bangkok, which are Lumpini and Rajadamnern, and then they also have Omnoy and Channel 7, but they're less prestigious. Women aren't even allowed to touch the ring. Like, they have signs on them that say women don't touch the ring.
But I guess, like you said, if you've got people like Dieselnoy, and for those who don't know who we're talking about, Dieselnoy is probably what you would call one of the true legends of the sport. And if there is one person's knees who you literally never wanted to be on the receiving end of it, it would be Dieselnoy. If he's talking about it, I guess you're going, well, that's definitely possible, isn't it?
Yeah.
What here's the next question that I wanna ask. And we had a little chat about it, and we won't get too much into our political discussions back home because we were laughing too much about it. You're obviously hugely affected by what is going on at the present time.
Mm.
It's put your dream on hold a little bit. It's made you rethink a little bit of, strategies and your training at home stuff. You've become very ingenious, and I have a small army of people that are following your knees, your 500 elbows, and all the rest of it.
Nice.
We're doing a push-up challenge in Australia at the moment. It's a national thing to raise mental health awareness, and your elbows are helping loosen up everybody's shoulders before they do push-ups for the day. So it's nice. definitely a good thing. I'm just going to walk as we do this. What is Sylvie's take on COVID, and what do you hope is achieved out of what we see out of all this? How has it affected you? What do you see out of it?
There are two parts to that question. The first one is that I think that a lot of people are realizing all over the world, because we're going to have to come back to a new normal. People are realizing that the old normal wasn't that awesome, like that there are things that really need to change. So maybe don't go back to the way things exactly the way they were. Take this opportunity to kind of start new a little bit. Yeah. And in Thailand, there's a lot of talk in Thai among Muay Thai communities about how this is going to be incredibly damaging to Muay Thai as a whole. So maybe it's a time to kind of rethink how it's going to restart and what goals the Muay Thai community wants in Thailand for when it starts again. So that's on like a broader kind of national level of what Muay Thai is experiencing
Well, we talk about gyms. We talk about gyms suffering in Australia. Do you like? I mean, we're suffering, but you know, we have these. We have people on direct debit payments. We have people still making payments, yet even though we're closed, they're supporting us. Whereas I would assume the majority of Thai gyms is just a pay as you enter. Everything's majorly in cash, so they're just getting nothing in, are they? Like them surviving at the moment would be super tough.
It's really difficult because a lot of the bigger gyms that have, you know, Western clientele who help kind of pay the base because they pay for training, tourism in Thailand is just wiped right now. So there aren't tourists here to be going into those gyms. Small gyms like Tom's gym, there's nobody there to be supporting that.
He's really struggling, and I guess like you said, it's just he's, you know, there's nothing to rely on.
Yeah, we've been able to through the Muay Thai library put the word out to patrons. If there's anyone in the Muay Thai library who you really got a lot from and you want to send a contribution, they can do that. And people have sent to Tom and to his father-in-law, which is really nice. It's a little bit, but again, you know, gyms have been shut down for 2 months. Everyone's struggling. And then these smaller gyms that they really rely on their fighters fighting, there are no fights, so they can't earn any money. When fights start back up, the way that they're talking about it in Bangkok is it's going to be like 4 fights per card, 3 days a week for the foreseeable future with no audience, and it's going to be on TV. That means that's 24 fighters every week. Those are not going to be coming from the small gyms. You know, that's not supporting the overall community. That's going to be supporting basically who's already doing okay, already big gyms, already big names, kind of thing like that. So it's a very difficult situation in Thailand. On a like personal level for me, I think what's been really remarkable for me in having to totally pull myself out of the routine or what I'm used to or what my focus was, is it showed me how inverted my thinking was. I don't know if you guys have a lot of reality shows in Australia. We do watch Australian MasterChef, but you guys are so nice to each other. It's nothing like American shows. On American shows, everyone's like, I'm not here to make friends. Like, they're just total assholes.
We actually use those cooking shows to cook. It's weird. They're actually about cooking.
We don't do that. But I think that I had this, because I'm very serious about what I'm trying to do and my aims and things, I think that I very much thought about my gym as like not being a social space because I'm trying to do things there. But by being separated from it, by doing all my work at home, it made me realize how much you are responsible for your own progress because of your own focus. Like whether you're focused at home because you have no trainer, you have to have that same focus at the gym, even with a trainer, to give intention to everything that you're doing in that space. And then I thought that I'm like not a social person at all. The part of the gym that's actually really important are those relationships. Like the way you feel about how you're training or the way you feel about the thing that you're learning is the relationship that you have with your teammates or with your trainer. And that's actually really important, which I don't think that I would have thought how important that is. I obviously love my gym. I obviously have deep relationships with people. I see them every day for 8 years.
So it's interesting.
But I never would have thought how important that is.
So it's funny, like, because that's definitely something that I have experienced, and I would call myself a motivated person, but I am also a person that to go out in the backyard or to go into a room at my own house and train at the same intensity that I would at a gym, like you said, with other people around me, motivating me, you know, putting shit on each other and having that community around. Have you've experienced that then? Like that is hard to keep that going. And again, you're training for fights. You're now training and there's no fights. Has that motivation been hard to, have there been days where you just go, I'm really not feeling this today?
Oh, I definitely have I do not feel like doing this. I get up and I do it, and I end up usually feeling much better about it. But I think that what's really become evident to me, and I've mentioned this a few times on my live streams of my home workouts, which are just super pared down. I have no equipment in my house, so it's, you know, doing knees against the wall and elbows in air and kind of thing. And sometimes I'll get like way into my blocks or something. Is that that kind of focus about like, I'm doing this because it feels good, or like, wow, I can really feel the detail between that elbow and this elbow. That just, there's so much noise in a gym, and it's not the fault of the gym. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that there's so much going on. It's like the water pressure is really high. And so it just has this current to it that you kind of get swept up into. And I think that you end up kind of through no fault of your own, kind of zoning out and just like going with the flow.
Yeah.
And when you can really pare that down and really learn to have awareness and focus on each of those details and get good at it in isolation, then when you bring that back to the like current high pressure situation, it's like you went to ninja camp. Like you just have total awareness of like self-correction, instead of like, I don't know whether that was good or not because my coach didn't tell me. Like that doesn't help anybody.
We're back to the Mr. Miyagi discussions. So do you so you would say that even though it's back to our, you know, it's again us talking about like there's still something to work on. You're still improving, even though the circumstances are different. You're now getting to, like you said, see things that maybe you wouldn't see in the gym. We were actually working on in the Zoom classes I've been taking in all our styles, like our karate style and our Thai boxing over the last couple of weeks. I've really been focusing on their shadow sparring, and you know, using the phrase that, you know, at the moment we can't hit pads, but my idea of shadow sparring is the only difference between shadow sparring and pad work is the pads. All the other factors are the same, everything's the same, you're still looking, focus, everything, whereas we kind of might view shadow sparring as a break, like we'll use this as a way to catch my breath. And it's been interesting feedback from the guys going, I actually feel that that's improving. So it's you're making do with what you can do, and you're still getting better. And I've had some very interesting feedback about how people's calves feel the following day after those knees that you do up against the wall. So there's still a way to make yourself better, isn't there?
For sure. I think that I don't mean to sound too philosophical about it, but there's a little bit of a like shadow puppet situation that goes on where we think something is one way and it's really not that way. I can't remember who it was now, but it was a UFC fighter many years back on The Ultimate Fighter, and he was one of the coaches of the teams, and he kept bringing in mental training experts. And it might have actually been Chael Sonnen, but he was talking about how people will train one way and then they can't do it in a fight. And it's exactly the same as you can walk a straight line on the floor, but the minute you have to do it a foot up on a 2x4, you think it's a completely different thing and you can't do it. It's like you literally just walk exactly the same way. It's just on a slightly different, like it looks different.
Yeah.
And I think that people are like, I'm at home. This looks nothing like my gym. I don't have a trainer in front of me with a pad. How could I possibly throw my jab? It's like you just throw it exactly the same as you would if there was a pad in front of you, if your trainer was right there. Yeah. It's like we don't trust ourselves because we're waiting for someone to tell us that was good or that wasn't. And because we've done that for so long, we've allowed ourselves to be really numb to feeling what that feels like, so that you can self-diagnose, you can self-correct, which honestly, when you're in the ring, nobody's telling you that was good.
You can't do a damn thing.
You can tell your opponent that was good, that cracked me on the face, but you kind of want to hide it. So yeah.
Well, I'm really glad you and I have the same opinion about shadow sparring, because then at least people will maybe listen to what I say now. Because if Sylvie says this, you know, because my students don't listen to me at the best of times, and then hey, see what the fuck do I know? So I guess the final thing, when you are given the green light to train properly, when you're given the green light to fight again, is there anything you'll do different, or will you just be so happy to just be back to whatever you were doing?
I think it's going to be very different for me. I think that I'm going to take what I've I've had these epiphanies of like having that self-awareness, having that self-diagnosis, being able to feel things instead of like targeting or anything like that. I think taking that into my training is something that I think is a huge launching pad. Like it's going to make things so much better. And
Yeah.
I really want to have more like autonomy in my gym space, like in knowing what I'm trying to get out of each session and like really focusing on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's actually a benefit for me because I would never on purpose take this much time off
Do you
ever.
feel has your body appreciated the rest? Do you think, like, has it been a little bit of a reset button?
I've injured myself twice, so I don't know.
I did the same thing. Like, I really hurt my knee a few weeks ago, and I'm like, what the fuck?
How does that happen? It's very disappointing. It's like you know, you see these like super bodybuilders and then they like pick their t-shirt up off the ground the wrong way and they throw their back out. Totally like that. Yeah.
Is there anything, I guess anybody who is, a martial artist, because, I mean, God, I think you would call yourself a fighter, but I would also call you you're a lifetime martial artist. People getting frustrated and people just wanting to get back and train, or like, your world's been halted a bit. What advice would you give them every time they really get frustrated or they're like, this is fucked? Like, what would you say to them?
Uh, I I think the thing that people miss is that every opportunity is an opportunity. It might not be the one that you were hoping for. Like everything changes, nothing stays the same. So the change might not be in the direction that you want it to be, but it's still a change that can shape you and you can equally shape it. So while we're all getting frustrated because we can't do the thing that we want to do, you're basically focusing on your lack of something. But in not being able to do that, you have an opportunity to do something else. And you probably wouldn't be doing that if you were doing this other thing that you want to do. So you're actually given a kind of window for something that you would look over otherwise. Yeah. And those are really beautiful opportunities a lot of the time. And so I think that, like, shifting your sails to catch the wind that's available instead of like, I'm just going to wait for that one and sit in this dead sea.
And I'll
catch the wind that's there.
I'll just whinge a lot and complain about all the things that I can't change. I guess probably the last question I'd say to you, and this is something, you're like, getting back to opportunities, your life has been a series of opportunities that you have, I guess, grabbed and run with. Anybody who would sort of be hesitating to give something a shot and give something a go, what would, I don't know, I'm trying to put it into words. You're a true example of what's happened when you've just taken a little dream and go, I'm just going to see where this goes. If people think they can't do something, what would you say? Is that, the only person you maybe can't think you can do it is yourself?
I still think I can't do things all the time. I think that it's like totally, if you just keep moving and then you look behind you and you're like, that thing's behind me that I thought I couldn't get over, kind of thing.
Like, you've had 264 fights. You haven't won them all. When you lose a fight, do you just go, oh, well, I'll just keep moving ahead? Do you walk around?
No, I've had fights still impact me. Like, it still sucks to lose. I still get really upset by some of them, depending on what the emotional impact of that fight was. But sometimes people will contact me because they've lost like 2 fights in a row, and they're like, I'm clearly no good. What do I do? Should I just quit? And it's like, I'm just better at it because I've done it more. Like, I've had 6 to 9 fight losing streaks, and you just like keep going, kind of thing. Is that it's really one of these things where you will never know the things that you missed out on because of your shyness. Like, shyness is really expensive. Saying no is really expensive. Being competitive with people who are your allies, we can't even afford that as women, especially. Like, the larger you make your group, the more you say yes to things, the more that you're like, I'll try it. And then once you've experienced it, you're like, maybe not for me. At least now you know.
Yeah.
The things that you miss out on because of the fear of it is 100% always worse than the embarrassment you might have from having tried it and it didn't really go your way.
There's only one way to find out, I guess, isn't there?
Yeah.
Sylvie, I could keep this going for at least another hour, but I'll pull it up there. If someone wants to follow your stuff, which is just a plethora of information and history, how do they find you? What are your best points of contact?
You can definitely find my blog, which is 8limbsus.com. There's lots of videos and writing and links there. My patron is an incredible resource in terms of the Muay Thai library and documentary projects. Kyl helps with that. It's been incredible support in that, and you know the value of that. But honestly, I am so versatile in all of these things. If you just Google Sylvie and Muay Thai.
Everywhere. She's a virus. That's bad timing, isn't it? I shouldn't say that. Yeah, guys, Sylvie has a patron page that you can donate as little as $5 US, I think it's a donation a month. Is that right?
You can donate as little as $1 US and get in there, yeah.
Yeah, and that gives you access and to just, even at that small amount, gives you access to a ridiculous amount of content which I have used, and as I said, it's always been a pleasure and continues to be a pleasure to keep in touch with you, to catch up with you every time we are over there. As I said, it's very important for me that I, being a father of 2 girls in this world, make sure I surround them as much as I can with other women that are basically trailblazers in their field, and you are one of them. So thank you so much for your time. It's really cool to always speak to you. It's always fun.
Thank you very much.
Guys, if you would like to watch more of these conversations, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is Sylvie was giving me crap about my name and the way I was getting pronounced before when I was asking her how to pronounce her surname properly, but it's Kyl space Reber. You can also go to kylreber.com.au. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram and all the rest of it. And it's always a pleasure to interview people like these. So Sylvie, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kyle.
And guys, we will see you later on. Thank you and goodbye.